Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new hardware review today with the keyboard, namely this one. This is the GAMDIAS Hermes P1 mechanical keyboard with TTC switches, full RGB illumination, and a whole host of other features that may be quite useful to you. This keyboard was sent to us by the people at GAMDIAS, and I would like to thank them very much for the opportunity to review this keyboard and also for the fact that they're letting me keep this. So let's get on with the proper review and see exactly how good this thing is for gaming and for, well, pretty much everything else you would use a keyboard for. Probably the first thing you're going to notice about this keyboard is its metal faceplate. This thing is made of aluminum and it adds quite a bit of rigidity to the keyboard itself without contributing much to its weight, which is very noticeable by the fact that I'm holding it up by one hand, which is something I would not be able to actually do for long with the Hera keyboard since that one weighs a ton. Also, the metal faceplate extends a bit below the keys, as you can see right here, so it can act as a palm rest unto itself, but if you want an actual proper palm rest, well, you don't have to worry because it has these holes here and here into which you can socket this palm rest which comes with the keyboard itself. This one is made out of a very nice plastic material. It's a matte-like material with some particles on, like it has a bit of a texture to it, and that helps with reducing the amount of fingerprints you'll find on it, and it also helps with limiting sweat. It's a very good palm rest design in terms of materials. I like it, and on the back of it, it also has rubber feet, so it'll contribute to not letting this keyboard slip in any way. The keyboard itself does feature rubber feet as well, both on the back and on the extension of the feet, so you'll not have any problems with it slipping pretty much ever. The keys are made out of plastic. They're nice enough. I mean, I haven't noticed any issues with the light not properly illuminating the entirety of the keys, which I have seen in previous keyboards. Something out of light would have been to actually see the extra bits being highlighted too. For example, you will not be able to see all that well in the dark the icons on the keys. I mean, the extra ones for functions. But that's not really that much of an issue, especially since there's not quite a lot of them, and most of them are very easy to remember. One thing that kind of is not very good design is, well, over here, the num lock, scroll lock, and the caps lock. When you're holding the keyboard normally, like you would hold it like this, you cannot see these at all. Like they're very small red LEDs that are just invisible, and honestly, with a keyboard of this size with the keys this elevated from the faceplate, I would have liked it if they had used a design similar to what the Rokat Sora had, where they didn't have these at all. You would just get the illumination of the num lock, the caps lock, and the scroll lock when you would be using these keys or when they would not be activated. The way it is now, you will not see these. You'll have to put your hand over it just to see which of these are active, and that kind of defeats the purpose of them being easily visible and, you know, useful. Now let's talk about the switches themselves. Because I mentioned the Sora, by coincidence this also used the TTC Brown switches, which I had identified in the Sora review as being cherry brown switches. They were not, they were TTC switches, as I've corrected in that review as well. But they do feel quite a bit different compared to the Kale Brown switches I'm used to. Quite a lot different. And also these keys, they're not actually the exact same models as on the Sora, because those ones were opaque and these ones are clear. I can see pretty much anything in them. Like they're not opaque, they're not made out of solid opaque plastic. You can see through them. I'm not sure if that actually matters. This may be my imagination playing tricks, but I don't remember. Well, no, actually I do. I mentioned in the Sora review that there was a bit of a height differential between the keys. Like some of them would actuate lower or higher, but not by a lot. This one also has the same thing, so you'll notice that some keys will actuate a bit higher than others, so you're pretty much encouraged to jam them to the fullest possible extent that they can go, so you will get the proper registration. The good thing is you will get actual registration for all the keys. They all work, and just like the ones in the Sora, they're a bit springy compared to Kale switches. They push back. Well, again, I wouldn't say they have more resistance than the Kale ones, but they seem like they pop up back quite a lot faster and they're more responsive. Though again, pressing them down is pretty much the same thing. I will however mention one thing. This may be just my imagination because I haven't actually been able to properly verify this through testing. The E key was sometimes giving me a doubling of the input. When I was pressing the E, it would sometimes type 2 E's instead of 1, even though I was not pressing the button for long enough for it to actually register 2 inputs. I tried to test it out, but it wouldn't register again. It's something that I pretty much encountered while writing some news. I actually had the chance to use this over the course of almost a month, so I did manage to wear it in quite a bit. And the E key started showing up about 2 weeks ago and then went away, so it was probably just me being tired. That's a possibility. But in terms of actual performance, they're okay. Like, they have not broken. None of the keys are broken. They all work, which is again something I cannot say for Kale Brown switches, which some come failed out of the box and will repeatedly become even more of a disappointment as time goes on. But these ones, they're okay. I've had no problem with them. In terms of gaming performance, you're pretty much going to have exactly what you would expect from a keyboard with this kind of switch. It's going to be silent enough that you can use it at night when you're playing and there's someone else in the room, as long as you don't play Street Fighter on it and just murder all the keys of the keyboard. Other than that, you will not have really that much of an issue with using it at all in games or in writing. I have used it to write probably 2 chapters of Tale of Doom in the past month or so. It's been quite very nice actually using it to type. Also because my day job does involve quite a lot of typing, and because we had events like the Apple unveiling of the new iPhone and the IFA 2017 in Berlin, I did write quite a lot on this. A whole lot. I'm probably done with about half the lifespan of these keys. A couple of million hits. But yeah, they still work, so I'm happy with the way they function. In terms of lighting, the RGB LEDs are quite nice. They are pleasant to the eye, again because the keys are black, you won't get that much of a show, but there is some reflectiveness from the metal faceplate. However, I can't really say that much about the options that come pre-built into the hardware, namely the options to set scrolling effect, wave effect, a circle effect, setting for speed. It doesn't really have that many options in the hardware for switching the lighting modes. However, I'm happy to say that this comes with a software called the Hera software, which lets you change everything about it. Like, you can change the color of every individual LED on this keyboard. You can give them a whole host of effects like marquees, random colors, Christmas trees. You can do pretty much anything you would want with the lighting of this keyboard, and you also have 6 profiles to which you can save all your settings. There is however one thing, depending on what color you choose, like I believe it was white, green, the brighter colors, the more complicated colors, will cause the keyboard to hum. Like, there is an audible hum in the LEDs. You kind of have to place your ear to the keyboard itself, but you will notice it if it's very, very quiet. Not if you have headphones on, that won't actually be a problem. And honestly, it's more of a nitpick. Like, it's not an issue, but it's there, and it can get annoying if you have very, very fine hearing and you don't really have much other noise in your room, especially if you have a silent PC or something. In terms of other features, you do have things like N-key rollover, meaning that you can absolutely slam your head into the keyboard and everything will be registered. Though again, that is kind of a strange way to play Street Fighter. It's probably more effective in Tekken, so you could go with that. Also, because of the Hera software, you can do quite a lot of things to the keyboard itself. You can add timers to it with an alarm. For example, maybe you want a key that you'll set whenever you pick up something in, I don't know, Quake Champions or Quake 3 if you're more old school, and you want to set a reminder for when that thing spawns again. You can set an alarm to do that. You can set macros to the G1 and G2 keys. As I mentioned, you can set the profiles here. Oh, by the way, you can switch the arrow keys and the WSD keys through the, I believe it was this button, like function and this thing. Probably also seeing that I'm not actually pressing function, am I? No, I'm pressing this button. See, this is the Windows button, Windows/game button that you can disable. You can disable it if you want to. But in the Hera software, you can actually flip the functionality of the function button, which is all the way up here, and this one. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, for starters, every other keyboard I reviewed always had the function key here and the Windows key here. And I was kind of happy to see that the the volume controls for this keyboard were all on one side and sort of reachable if the FN button was here. But I was sad on the unboxing because the FN button was actually here and made it kind of a bit harder to actually reach them. But you can absolutely switch these so you'll have the exact kind of configuration for a keyboard that you want. See, this is the kind of customization that I very, very much enjoy. It's still not a... Oh, wait, no, the WSD and arrow key switch was here. So yeah, it's function and this one to switch between them in case you don't want to drive with the WSD keys in the GTA 5, which is something that I do not really enjoy. You also have the macro recorder here if you want to use the macros without the Hera software. So if you're on a system that doesn't support the Hera software, you can still use much of the functionality of the keyboard, though maybe not all of the lighting features because some of them are not built into the hardware. They have to be informed, they have to be added through the software itself. In terms of other functionalities, as I've said, you do have the ability to lock the Windows key. You do have all the classical media functions up here, though again I would have really liked to see a volume knob or volume dial. Anything in this part with volume attached to it would have been preferable. Though again, this is functional and quite usable, though not as elegant as a dial or a knob. The Hera software is quite nice, especially because it's used for all the peripherals made by GAMDIAS. You don't have individual software for each and every one of them, you have just one software piece that covers all of them. Though there is one issue. I managed to, by messing around with the profiles and lighting options, I managed to get the keyboard stuck in a boot loop. When I tried to save the profile, it just sort of booted up. It stopped, it booted up again, stopped, and it kept doing that until I unplugged it. I haven't been able to replicate and actually get that thing captured on footage, but yeah, it's something that may occur. So if it does happen, just unplug the keyboard and plug it back in. It should solve it. Now it's kind of the first time it actually got a keyboard stuck in a boot loop. Now comes the tricky part. Would I recommend this keyboard? Well, that honestly depends on the price, and this is the difficult part. The price. I found this keyboard in two completely different price ranges, like the same one, the Hermes P1, not the Hermes M1. There is an M1 variant, I do not know exactly what it does compared to this one. I found this keyboard on the price of 110 euros, I believe it was on Amazon Germany, and on $64 on Amazon US, though the 64 may have been on sale. If it's around $64 or $70, yeah, I would say give it a shot. It's a good enough keyboard. You will have a lot of customization options. The software is quite good. You can clean it very easily because the the faceplate lifts the keys above the body of the keyboard, so you won't have any problem with accumulating dirt. But at 110 euros, that's kind of a different territory. That's the kind of territory you would expect for keyboards that have, wheels or dials or knobs for for volume or dedicated macro keys, not just these ones, or proper integration with the games. Like, you can't actually integrate the software with the games in terms of lighting. I haven't managed to do so yet. Maybe there's a patch out there, or maybe a hack that lets you do it. It's quite unfortunate that game developers do not properly support keyboard illumination in most of them, unless they're, I don't know, Razer or I think Logitech also has them. But apart from that, pretty much no one else does, which is kind of sad. So yeah, in the $60 to $70 bracket, sure, it's a good enough keyboard. It's a solid keyboard, a reliable one. In the higher price variant, you probably find something that gives you a bit more in terms of features and maybe better design. Again, the placement of these is, you can pretty much not have these. It would have the exact same effect. Other than that, it's a fine keyboard. So I'm gonna be back next time, well, not next time, in 2 weeks, with a review of the GAMDIAS Zeus mouse, which is right here, but I won't show it to you because it's glowing green and a little mess of background. But before that, I'm gonna have a show about how you can, or if you can, fix a dead pixel on your brand new monitor that's staring you right in the face, and it's quite annoying if you're spending most of your day writing text on a white background and it's just sitting there taunting you, mocking you constantly. But again, thanks to people at GAMDIAS for sending me this keyboard. I hope that the mouse will be just as good when the review comes along. So till then, have a good day, check out our other shows, and stick around. Goodbye.